Hi, everyone. Welcome to Road Trip to Bliss. Today, I'm going to discuss a somewhat difficult topic, and that is signs of emotional abuse. This is extremely important for me to get this message out because I feel that many of us suffer from emotional abuse and have no idea. And I think that's partly because it's not recognizable, it's not physical. We don't see scars, we can't identify it with our eyes. So emotional abuse can be very overlooked. And the second reason I believe is because we automatically assume that emotional abuse is coming from a partner, a wife, a husband, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a significant other. And that is not always the case. Emotional abuse can happen with a sibling, a friend, a parent. It can come from many different angles. So, by providing you with awareness, I hope that you will, number one, be able to identify it and do something about it. And it is super important that you consult with a professional if you suspect any type of abuse. I want to make that very clear. But here's some signs, and the more boxes you check off, all I'm going to say is this is just a small tip of what emotional abuse can look like and some of the identities associated with it, but there's more. So just be aware that this is just a tidbit of what they can look like, but these are the most common. And if you see yourself checking off 3, 4, 5 boxes, it's time to seek help, confide in someone, and take those steps. All right. Number one, constant criticism. If there is consistent and excessive criticism that is constantly undermining your self esteem, your worth, time to address that. A lot of times we fall into that. Well, if I just wasn't so stupid, if I wasn't this, if I wasn't that, that we deserve the criticism, and that if we made changes, this wouldn't keep happening, but it will keep happening. Regardless of what efforts you take to improve yourself, someone that wants to emotionally abuse you will continue to find something to criticize you about. That's number one. Number two is isolation. Many abusers will try to isolate you from friends, family, support networks. They want to limit your social interactions and your independence. And a lot of times, this is disguised as I just love you and I want to spend time with you and I don't want to share you and all of that. Any type of isolation is not good. Number three is manipulation. And this can be engaging in tactics like gaslighting or blaming you for their behavior. Gaslighting is interesting. It's an interesting tactic, but basically it's doing something and then making you think that you deserved it or caused it. I will do more on this subject, but for right now, you can Google it and check out what gaslighting is if you've never heard of this term. The first time I heard it and I went and looked it up, I was like, oh my God, bingo. But understand that any type of manipulation is not good and not healthy. Number four is control and possessiveness. If they're trying to control your decisions, your actions, dictating what you can or cannot do, humongous red flag. Sometimes also disguised as, I just want to be with you. I don't want no one else to hurt you. You don't need to hang out with that friend because they're bad news. Any type of control over who you are and what you decide is not healthy either. Number five is emotional blackmail, using guilt or other forms of manipulation to coerce you into doing things against your will. Well, if you loved me, you would do this. If you cared about me, you would do this. It's no big deal. If someone is trying to get you to do something that you know in your heart is not right and something you do not want to do, please, please know that is emotional blackmail. Number six is humiliation and belittlement. A lot of times this happens in private, but surprisingly, it can happen in front of others. Not as intense normally, but you'd be surprised what people say to one another in front of others, making demeaning remarks or comments, mocking them, humiliating them. If they're doing it in front of others, my guess is what happens in private is 100 times worse. So, anytime anybody that's humiliating you or belittling you is not